two on the right. Allah is my God, protected through the day and night.
A lot of us deal with what you would call childhood trauma, you know. But I tell you all the time that I learn a lot, you know, from the various things around me. And I'm an at-home mom, so some people that I learn a lot from are my children. And you wouldn't think because, you know, they're so small that they could teach, you know, me something. But in truth, my children teach me something different every day.
Islam.
And so I want to talk about childhood trauma. But one thing that sticks out to me concerning my children is resilience. And how no matter, you know, as parents, we don't always have good days because we have adult things that are on our minds. But one thing that I love about our children is that even when we snap at them or, you know, maybe deal with them in an energy that is unpleasant, you know, 5 minutes later they come back as if nothing ever happened to them. You know, it's erased, you know, it's water up under the bridge because that love is unconditional. They, in their minds at that time, really don't program where you did this to me in this moment, so I'm going to hold it against you for, you know, having, you know, length of time. And it's a reason why I bring this up. Because I believe that our trauma didn't so much start, you know, with childhood stuff, but when we kind of hit our teenage years. Islam, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read chapter 4, keys 1 through 8. Islam, and I'm on page 8. This chapter is entitled Death and Burial of Elizabeth, Matheno's Lessons in the Ministry of Death. So we know that in this chapter, we know that John has just learned that his mother, Elizabeth, has passed away. Okay? So it says, when John was 12 years old, his mother died, and neighbors laid her body in a tomb among her kindred in the Hebron burial ground and near to Zacharias' tomb. And John was deeply grieved. He wept. Matheno said, it is not well to weep because of death. Death is no enemy of man. It is a friend who, when the work of life is done, just cut the cords that bind the human boat to earth, that it may sail on smoother seas. So I want you to look at this passage and understand that John just, you know, experienced one of the worst things that, you know, a lot of us need to experience. He just lost someone that was really dear to him, his mother. Okay? So he's having a hard time right now. It says, no language can describe a mother's worth, and yours was tried and true. But she was not called hence until her tasks were done. The cause of death are always for the best, for we are solving problems there as well as here. And one is sure to find himself where he can solve his problems best. It is selfishness that makes one wish to call again to earth departed souls. Then let your mother rest in peace. Just let her noble life be strength and inspiration unto you. Key 8 says, a crisis in your life has come, and you must have a clear conception of the work that you are called to do. So I want to stop right there. Key 1 said when John was 12 years old. So he is 12 years old, and he has lost his mother. But he also, as he's facing a crisis, he is also realizing that there is something that he is called to do. Now, a lot of us grew up understanding, we were always told that 12 was the age of accountability. But I would say give or take a year or two, I believe that the age of 12 is also when we start to truly understand the difference between right and wrong. I believe that in our teenage years, give or take a year, but around the age of 12 is when we get to like really form who we are in those moments. In life, we kind of let life form who we are in those moments. What I like about John is that even though he lost his mother at such a young age, he still went on to do ministry. You know, he had to pave the way for Jesus to come. You know, he was purity and Jesus was love. Islam? Okay, so now I'm going to go over here to chapter 5, okay? And it says, after the feast, the homeward journey, the missing Jesus, the search for him. His parents find him in the temple. He goes with them to Nazareth, symbolic meaning for carpenter's tools. So I'm going to read keys 1 through 9 on page 10. It says, the great feast of the Apostles ended when the Nazarenes were journeying towards their homes, and they were in Samaria, and Mary said, where is my son? No one has seen the boy. And Joseph sought among their kindred who were on their way to Galilee, but they had seen him not. Then Joseph, Mary, and son of Zebedee returned and sought throughout all the Jerusalem, but couldn't find him not. And Mary asked the guards, had they seen Jesus, a little boy about 12 years old. So here we go with this number 12 again. They can't find Jesus. They don't know where he is. They're looking for him, and no one has seen him. It says the guards replied, yes, he is in the temple now disputing with the doctors of the law. And they went in and found him as the guard had said. And Mary said, why, Jesus, why do you treat your parents thus? Lo, we have sought 2 days for you. We feared that some great harm had overtaken you. And Jesus said, do you not know that I must be about my Father's work? But he went round and pressed the hand of every doctor of the law and said, I trust that we meet again. Now I'm going to tell you something. I'm a mom, okay? And losing my child at any age for 2 days would have been horrific. But imagine as a parent finding your child and they tell you, don't you know I got to be about my Father's business at the age of 12. So Jesus demonstrated that he understood that he had a divine purpose that he had to fulfill then as well. Is Mom? So if I could leave a title with you today, you know, something that would stick with you, I would say that it's time to grow up. Okay? When I was about 14, 15 years old, I remember that was a time when I realized that in my mind at that time, I felt like I didn't have to listen to my parents. I had had enough. My childhood really wasn't the best. You know, my mom was married. I had a stepdad. Me and my stepdad didn't always see eye to eye for various reasons. And I felt like he was a little hard on me for whatever reason, you know, he had. But, you know, I remember I had stayed out. I didn't get curfew, and I had stayed out. And my mom was mad. You know, she's like, where were you? You didn't come home. You know, as her right, she should have been upset with me, right? And they put me on punishment, and I was so upset because they had put me on punishment. And I remember sweeping the kitchen floor and thinking to myself, I don't have to listen. I have a choice in that moment. I don't have to listen to this. You know, before, you know, not that, you know, when I stayed out, I was being defiant, I lost track of time. But before, I did things the right way. I listened, did what I was supposed to do, went to school, did my schoolwork. But then something happened. I thought to myself, I don't have to listen. I mean, what are they gonna do to me? You know, I mean, it was like a revelation that hit me. It kind of reminded me of the story of Adam and Eve. When Eve ate from the fruit and she ate from the tree of good and evil, she realized that she was naked. I had a realization that I don't have to listen to them. What are they gonna do to me? You know, my mom wasn't the type to beat you. She was the type to kind of talk to you a bit. She wasn't that type to, you know, whoop you, do chastity, and my stepdad wasn't either. So it was kind of like, you know, they put me on punishment. What's that? What are you gonna do? And in that moment, in making that decision, I also made a choice in that moment, not realizing to sit in my lower self. Because every choice I made from that day to further days after that in my adolescence led to something else. And a lot of us, because of the choices that we chose to make in our adolescence, we are still living with those same choices today, those same bad habits, those same thoughts. So as I went through my week this week, and you know, God was just talking to me and dealing with me and revealing things to me concerning myself, things I have gone through, I was uprooting some things and doing away with some things. Allah said to me, it is time to grow up. Because it's not the things that we go through when we are little children that affect us, but it's the things that we come to the realization of when we hit them teenage years, when we realize, hey, you know, this ain't, I ain't got to do this like this. When we realize that we really actually have our own free will and we have a choice. But a lot of us as adults are still operating with a teenage mindset. Walking around being a teenager as an adult, making adult decisions. Do you understand what I'm saying? No. There was a time where I made decisions out of emotion, and I had to tell myself, you are operating like the teenager that you used to be. But you can no longer operate that way because now you are a mother raising your own children. Or you are now a father, you know, a manager of a store, of a business. You are now a boss. You cannot do things the way that you've been doing them. But a lot of us are still operating as if we're still that same teenager. We still have those same fits like we were those same teenagers. A lot of us shut down like we're still that same teenager. I sat in my house this week and I was kind of in my little feelings, I'll be honest. And I started to listen to music. But what it did was it helped me to realize a pattern of when I was a teenager, how I would draw in. and I would pull myself to the side and listen to music. And I'm thinking that I'm getting through whatever situation is on my mind, but in turn, I'm keeping myself a place because what I'm thinking about is really not good. Islam. And so as I was going through my week this week, Allah said to me, it's time to grow up. There's a lot of us that are in our 20s. I give us some leeway on our 20s. It's a little crazy over there, but I'm going to say 30s, 40s, 50s. I even came across some 60-year-olds that are still responding to situations in a way as if they were still in their mother's house, as if they don't have a choice to make a better decision. I'm going to tell you something about making a choice as an adult with teenage emotions. It is very uncomfortable. It's a very uncomfortable experience because you are used to being away. And now you're saying to the teenager within you, I'm grown now. I can no longer do things the way that I used to do them. I'm no longer in my parents' house. I'm no longer that child or that teenager that used to stay in one spot. I'm grown now. I am an adult. It's time for me to do things differently. It's time for me to react a particular kind of way. A lot of us are still dealing in that same energy, dealing with people, family members, and friends because we haven't changed our mindsets yet. So we are physically grown, but inwardly still 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, still doing things a particular way. So like I said before, if I could leave you with a title, it would say it would be it's time to grow up. Look at Jesus. Jesus disappeared for 2 days. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, that was a tad bit irresponsible now, because Jesus could have told his mama and them something. However, he understood that there was a mission that he had to do, and he had to complete at the age of 12. So Jesus made a choice at the age of 12 to dwell in his higher self. Islam? So with that being said, that showed me something. That showed me that as above, so below. What it say, on earth as it is in heaven. So when Jesus' higher self came to the conclusion, it also let me know that our lower selves can do the same thing. So I want you to ask yourself a question. How many of you, when you came to the realization that I do not have to listen to my parents and I can do things in my own way, were in your higher self or your lower self when you made this decision? How old were you when you made the choice to sit your higher self or your lower self on the throne, Islam? Because some of us are still going through the day with our lower self still on the throne because of the choices and the decisions that we made as teenagers. Some of you still see your little teenage high school girlfriend. I'm going to say girlfriend because we ain't got no sisters in here. I ain't going to say boyfriend. My husband right there, I'm married. Little girl, high school girlfriend. Oh, she's still looking good. No, she should still be looking good to you because you should be somewhere else. Islam? Understand what I'm saying to you, okay? Y'all are conscious men, okay? Understand what I'm saying to you. She should still be looking good to you because your mind should have matured since high school. Okay, you shouldn't be you shouldn't be still walking school hallways, seeing, your old crush and still think, oh, she still looks good. Because you should have matured, your mind should be somewhere else. Islam? Because we all know that sometimes these same people that, look good at that time, don't always turn out good. We see them now, real popular in school, everybody like them, love them. And then you see them, and it's sad. Understand what I'm saying? It's sad. But they strung out, don't have nothing going for themselves, dealing with suicide and depression every day. It's the same thing. Hey, baby. Dealing with suicide and depression every day, you see it. So you are a grown adult. My grandma said adult, okay, not adult, adult. An adult, and you are still responding to the people around you, your family, your friends, as if you were still in that teenage mindset. There's a problem. There should be some growth there. If you're still dealing with, bullying and stuff, there's a problem. There should be some growth there. If you still in, personal relationships, still responding immaturely with your emotions, there's a problem. I don't know, baby. Mom, hold on, it's a big one. But if you're still doing that, there's a problem.